season. BC, Serna, welcome.
Thank you.
From your Airstream trailer. We're super happy to have you.
Yeah.
That Los Angeles, Venice, Airstream life.
Yes, I know. I live right on the water, so I just jumped in the ocean and it's beautiful.
Okay. We're going to let you have that. So you guys, BC is a bud of mine. He's a filmmaker, a storyteller. He is currently running a mentorship mastermind. He's a podcaster. He's crushing it on all things like social media, way better than I ever could. And he's just got such a big heart for basically the youth in general, just like empowering youth a ton. And so I wanted to pull him on today. His podcast is Pursuing Purpose. And I think right now at the end of 2020, it's, if we haven't already harnessed some of the extra time that we've had this year to like dial down into our purpose or our mission or our big yes in our life, like now is definitely the time to do it. We have 2 more months left basically. So BC, you're good. Let us know how you got into, first of all, just the storytelling filmmaking world, please.
Yeah, well, awesome. So stoked to be here. That was a cool introduction. Yeah, it's been a long marathon of a journey. I've been so fortunate to be able to do such unique creative work for like 12 years now. I started when I was 19 and I started by dancing. Actually, I was in some college musicals and my high school musical, and went to college to play basketball, and I got injured. And so there was a study abroad program that asked me to come travel the world with them, and they sing and dance around the world and spread a message of peace and unity and like global education and diversity. And because I was a male dancer, I wasn't that good, but I knew the gist of it. They gave me like a scholarship, like a full ride. So I traveled the world for 6 months, doing swing dance and African dance and like all kind of, it was like, it's a 2-hour show with songs and dance around the world. And so, yeah, that's how my journey started when I was 19. And then I got a job with that program after I traveled for 6 months with them. And then I traveled the world for 3 years, dropped out of college to do this. And,
Wow.
yeah.
I did not know that. That's so
yeah.
fun. I did not know that. You guys, he does like a morning meditation, if you will, dance mornings. That makes so much more sense. Anyways, he'll tell you more about that later maybe. But you travel the world dancing. Okay, so fun. So then how did
I used to dance for Disney when I was in high school.
Oh.
I like danced for Radio Disney, and we used to open for like Cheetah Girls and Hannah Montana and stuff. It was crazy.
Oh, I need videos. Stat.
I need to find them.
So then how did that like launch you into what you're doing now? You know, obviously you dropped out of college or whatever. I don't know if college is that popular anymore anyways, but how did that set you up for, you know, what you decided to go into vocation wise, and like how you decided to set yourself up now?
Well, I think it's all about diversity in your talents and your skills, always trying to like add new, I don't know, I mean, creativity and passions, we can like shift and kind of pivot all just like so much. And so, yeah, I was traveling the world. I was dancing. I picked up a camera at one point, like a couple of years into traveling. I knew my mom would probably want to see pictures and videos and my friends and family. So I picked up a camera and started just taking photos, and I saw there was like a video setting on it, and I was like, oh, cool, I'll take some video clips. And then just started teaching myself how to make these little videos for my friends back home and my mom and my sister, my dad, and fell in love with making videos. And I was like, whoa, this is so fun to tell a story and to evoke emotion through a camera. Like it was basically trying to bring my family to the places I was traveling to. So yeah, it just opened up a whole Pandora's box of like, wow.
YouTube. This is way before YouTube was like really a thing, a big thing.
Oh yeah, it was before Instagram existed. It was definitely like, yeah, way back in the day.
Wow. We've got an original gangster with us today, you guys.
Yeah, it was crazy before the travel of content influencer world.
Right. Which is like one of the things that defines you now. Like people know you so much for but you did it for your mom, your dad, and your sister back in the day, which is
Yeah, kind of. That's crazy.
so cool. So fun. Okay, and so now tell us about the Pursuing Purpose podcast.
Purpose 5.
Thank you.
Yeah, I started this a while ago, and obviously there's quite a bit of podcasts and incredible platforms. I love the movement cultural shift that people are taking away from YouTube and such stimulating content to podcast. It's like so inspiring to be like, wow, we're going back to intimate connections and intimate storytelling instead of just poppy, vibey, viral little things everywhere. And so, yeah, I started a podcast called Pursuing Purpose, and it was birthed from a doc I wanted to make called Pursuing Purpose, a documentary, but it's just the idea and concept as I saw anxiety and depression and mental health like just skyrocketing in our country. Pursuing purpose, we have in our Declaration of Independence, the pursuit of happiness. Mm-hmm. And pursuing purpose was the idea of pursuing something bigger than yourself. And what I've learned in my time doing what I do and working with so many people is when you pursue purpose, something bigger than yourself, it helps turn down those knobs of insecurity or depression or anxiety, because it takes the focus off yourself. The more we focus on ourselves, the more spiked we are with anxiety and depression and mental health causes. Yeah. And purpose goes, okay, wait a second. I know I'm feeling insecure or I'm comparing my life to this, but my life is bigger than my life. It's not for me, it's for others. And so the way you can flip the script towards pursuing purpose, pursuing something bigger than yourself, it helps navigate a lot of those emotions or insecurities of we're so stimulated by comparison because the internet is, so vast and amazing creativity content.
So true. So true. Can you actually just go right into that for us, BC, on comparison? Because that actually hasn't come up in many of our interviews. But it's like one of the predominant issues that dancers deal with, right? And obviously not just us, but everyone right now, especially our young generation. And like, I think you interact a lot even more. I work with like adult dancers, but like the youth, like how have you seen that affect just their own mental health or internal world? And what do you see for them in that?
Yeah, I think, the balance, I mean, when social media was going, it's still very big, but when it started coming out of nowhere, it was more, we were inspired by the content. And I hope that's what dancers do. I feel like dancers for the most part have a healthy relationship with like being inspired by the challenge of seeing something online and be like, ooh, I want to do that, or I want to get better. I want to like push myself. But comparison is in the same vein as inspired. So it's like, yeah, if we're in a bad mental space, or I don't know, just the seasons of life we go through, or an injury or whatever it is. But yeah, it's really tough with comparing and competing. And what the work I've done with nonprofits and traveling the world and with young people is the switching the comparing to collaborating, and really being stoked for people. And how do you turn that fear of I'm not enough, I'm not good enough, into joy, and just be like, hell yeah, this person, like the movement I love seeing right now with TikTok and social media is the skating movement, like the roller skaters, just like, dancing on the skates and just like empowering people to like own their creative flow or style or unique talents. But yeah, comparisons are a real thing. And yeah, it gets really toxic if that snowball effect kind of, carries on.
Can you talk a little bit more about what you mean by, instead of comparing, moving into the collaborating space, like practically? Like, what do you mean by that?
I think bringing people into your story. Something I talk about a lot is how anyone can do what they're passionate about by themselves, but no one can do what their purpose is alone. You need to be vulnerable to ask for help, to ask for guidance. And so if you see someone in your dance class or in your program that is, a better dancer than you, instead of being like insecure, but being like, hey, I love how you did that. Can you teach me that? It's just like, hey, can we do this dance video together? Can we do this dance project together? It's really just like being vulnerable to ask for help and being vulnerable to like seek, just to like lay your walls down and be like, hey, I would love for you to teach me,
I think that is brilliant. Like I talk about that a little bit in my e-course, where it's just like, hey, whoever you maybe feel envy towards, or jealousy towards, do whatever you can to go give them a compliment. Like as soon as you feel envy, as soon as you feel that thing. But I feel like there's a mentality that comes with that getting over the fear of it and the vulnerability factor. So actually I'd love to, and I want to ask you about the mentorship mastermind that you're doing right now, but the vulnerability factor. So talk to us a little bit about your journey actually with vulnerability and why it's such a core value of yours. Because I know that it's I've seen it come up a lot for you guys with the mentorship stuff. And
yeah, one theme that we use a lot is the strongest person in any room is the one who's most vulnerable, and kind of flipping culture on its head. I think for a long time the human and just like biological culture of alpha, of leadership, of dominance, of knowing a lot, has taken its toll and kind of like shown through history that it's just not sustainable and it's not authentic and relatable. And so flipping culture on its head of like, wow, I'm gonna reveal my weaknesses and my struggles and my hardships and my insecurities, my doubts, all these things is actually going to make you stronger than if you pretended you had it all together or pretended you knew everything. And so, yeah, I don't know, just the beautiful importance of, I think what the dance community does so well is just they build community really well. And if they can continue to just be transparent and vulnerable and authentic in their conversations, because it is a very competitive space too.
Super.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I don't know. I think I've just found vulnerability connects us quicker and deeper in a world of very shallow friendships and relationships and content and it's just we want to go deeper. I think we're all done with the shallowness, and so we're like, okay, I really, this is exhausting. It's draining to compete or compare or all these things, and so I want real relationships,
Yeah, I'm gonna keep going after this vein. Okay, so I want to ask
you, go for it.
Like, how do you go about that, BC? Like, with either your people or the people that you're leading, what are ways that you empower vulnerability in the culture and cultivate it?
Well, I think tattooing on your heart that the truth is all humans crave this kind of connection and just peace and like rest for the art of hustling and more dance videos, more followers, more money. We crave a safe place to be like, wow, I'm so tired, I'm so exhausted of this this conversation that we're having of like more and more. And so if you know this, then starting the conversation with your group of friends or your squad. Is it loud? Can you hear this thing in my background?
Great. Oh no, you're good.
Okay, good.
I can barely.
But I think just being like, okay, I'm really scared to start this conversation or be the leader in this, because maybe you're not a leader in your group or a leader in this, but you are a leader in, like, leaders in vulnerability and love. They don't need any certain gifts or talents. They literally just need like, hey, can we talk about this, and it's scary. It opens up a door for everyone to show up and be like, yeah, I've been really insecure and depressed and stressful lately too.
So good. It honestly is more rare than you think. Like it really is. When I meet up with somebody or somebody actually asks me how I'm doing, I'm like, wait a minute, really? Can I tell you for a second, Yeah. So refreshing, BC. So great. What are some of the things that you've seen like come out of that, where you're just like, man, I'm so thankful we went there. I'm so thankful we got vulnerable.
I think trust is right on the other side of that vulnerability, where when you trust that your family and friends or your teammates, they know the real you, that you build a trust of like, man, this is my family now. Like even your friends, when you're like, wow, these aren't friends anymore. These are people who I can actually know that they have the best out for me, which gives you so much just freedom in your heart and just unties all these knots in your stomach of like, who do I trust? Who do I go to? Who really believes in me? Who's really rooting for me? And so once you open that Pandora's box of vulnerability and authenticity, you're just like more free to be who you want, and your creative expression can come through you because you trust that the dance move that you just did or the dance video you uploaded, it came through you. So it's just it's a reflection of what you're feeling right now. So now you trust that people are going to just love it and support it,
Accept you regardless. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about people who you create, you're a leader in a sense that you've created some pockets of community like this, and you're helping foster this type of atmosphere and environment. But if someone were to say, hey, BC, like, how could I do that in my own community? And how could I, what would be one of the first practical steps to maybe helping like guide someone to create that culture around them practically, right? So especially like I'm thinking, I love that space. It's a space that I foster with my dance people here, where we actually meet once a week and we just talk about what we're going through, and we just like cover each other and huddle, and but like, what are some of the practical ways that you've seen, you've helped like empower people that maybe aren't used to being the leader step up into being a leader, something like that?
Something I kind of always encourage people to do is like, there's amazing documentaries out there, anything from, the movie Happy to I Am to, I mean, there's so many documentaries out there that start such a good emotional, and even there's YouTube videos out there that you can watch and you feel inspired and moved by. But I think literally me and all my adult friends over 25 a couple nights ago watched Inside Out, the Disney Pixar movie about emotions. Yeah. We all watched it, like 20 of us on a projector on Mental Health Day on Saturday. And then we sat in a circle and talked about our memories and our emotions. And like, we were like crying and sharing stuff. And so, it's just like, it's just showing a film like that, or it's just really, it doesn't take anything but just creating the space. And it's kind of like the build it and they'll come mentality, right? So it's like, literally you're like sitting there with 10 people. You're like, hey, what do you guys feel about mental health or the state of our world or this and this? And you just ask one question and you'll be surprised and the awkward, uncomfortable silence is so healthy and okay. But you'll be so surprised on where it goes and how it navigates and opens up doors. And there's different.
Can you talk a little bit about maybe the factor of doing it afraid?
Yeah, for sure. If you're not afraid, there's probably something wrong with you. The same concept of excitement and nervousness is the same emotion, So if you're feeling afraid, then that your fears really point to your North Star of your compass. Like you're the same ways. And my whole message on my podcast and my mission is turning pain into purpose. You can find where you're painful, like where you're most lonely, where you're most hurt or injured in your life. And that will backtrace a string. Will backtrace and be, I got that prop from my teacher. It'll be tied to your purpose. And same way as in your fears. Your fear, if you backtrace your fear coming from a string,
sure.
I would always tell my students, every fear, if you backtrace it with a string, it's tied to a lie. And so everything that you're feeling when it comes to what you're afraid about or fearful of, and or your pain, it's all tied to one another. So, what's the worst case scenario is usually what you ask, like, okay, why am I so scared to bring up this question in my group or my family, and it's like, oh, wow, the worst case scenario isn't real. It doesn't actually, I don't know. So yeah, I hope that makes sense.
Well, yeah, I think it goes back to what you're talking about self-acceptance, not self-acceptance just by yourself, but being accepted by the group because you actually put that thing out there, right? And I think at the end of this year, I think I'm watching a lot of people online go, I have to pull back from online right now because I've been so inundated, particularly in the US, right, with a lot of the political stuff that's going on right now. And that's always like one of the first indicators of like, well, you're probably also really actually needing authentic community too, because you've been spending a lot of time with inauthentic community, like stuff not face to face. And so I guess I love the invitation that like, yeah, I really want people, I would love for people, you guys go listen to his podcast, because the invitation for community and the invitation for authentic community and building your tribe it's something you carry super, super heavy, BC. And Not a lot of people, it's so rare, unfortunately. I think it's like become really normal for you, but it's still absolutely the rarest. Like we are living in a time, especially maybe the end of this year, 2020, am I right? Like we're so inundated with information. So right now would be the time, like more than ever, to intentionally get together with your people, whether it's your dance tribe or it's just your family or whatever, and talk about, like, use the end of this year to open up about what's been hard, relationally open up about it, not just social media, not via just social media, right? So that leads me to a little bit more. I'd love to hear about why you're passionate about empowering young people to like be leaders in their space, and how you do that.
Yeah, I think for me, I've always had this crazy passion of young people because their clay is much softer, and they're just going through a lot right now. But you know, you can really impact a person's clay, which is like, you know, their heart, their morals, their values, their experience to this life. Because after 18, when you're shot into the real world, your clay can become really hard and be chipped away. And so I'm always like trying to empower and equip young people to have a good foundation and a good support system. But yeah, I didn't have that growing up. I didn't have that in high school or really in my 20s. And so my whole mission with mentorship and helping young people is, you know, like be the person you wish you had growing up. And just the way that can catapult you into a whole different direction in your life. And so, yeah, young people, my whole mission now is to build more mentors. And so I work with a lot of like 20-year-olds and young adults, and just being like equipping them with, and it just softens your heart to have tons of empathy and compassion to be like, wow, my passion is dance. My passion is filmmaking. My passion is storytelling. My purpose is helping people of service. And that, like I said, that the passions were great and they're amazing, but even those can spiral and get kind of confusing and convoluted. But your purpose is what's going to reset you and realign your soul and your heart to be like, okay, I'm going to get through anything because I'm helping this person with their dreams and goals. Even if you're helping that person with their passion, there's something beautiful about that. So say you're helping a young person with dance, the fact that you're helping that young person is going to create a whole different world for that person's whole story.
100%. That keeps coming up in these interviews, is like, how did you get here and how did you get there? And they're like, this person told me that I was great. They believed in me and this and that. And that's how I ended up becoming in this role or this position. And it's so true. So not only do we need those people, but we are those people for others.
Yeah.
I would love to hear you, BC, talk a little bit more about turning that fear or that lie or that pain into purpose. The string analogy that you showed us. Like, I didn't actually know really that that's kind of what you focus on a lot, is people's pain. I think right now, in light of 2020, so the pain that we've all got. I mean, it's been a tough year. Like, it actually has been. Like, it's still tough. So can you talk to us about what you see for like purpose building out of the right now, you know, and how to get in touch with our purpose practically?
Well, you have to go, it's an inner journey. It's a marathon of an inner journey of just, you know, because why we're doing what we're doing is just the surface, right? And how we either react or respond to good or bad situations in our life, or why we're dancing, why we're trying to get money, why we're trying to get famous or accolades for what we're doing, or why we're struggling, is all on the surface. If you cut down these layers of why you're doing it, which below that layer is, you know, your emotions, but where do your emotions come from? You cut down to that. Your emotions come from what you believe about this world, and what you believe about this world below that is a trauma. So trauma, a personal experience you had when you were younger, creates every other layer of your behavior. And so every human being at some point in their life has experienced a trauma when they were young that kind of stripped them away from the curiosity or the excitement for the world or the blissfulness of, I don't see, like, I'm playing with a kid on the playground, I don't see the color of their skin, I don't see how much money's in their bank account or who they voted for. But through these chips at your heart, you're growing up, and you have these traumatic experiences that start to navigate and dictate your choices, your life decisions. And so for me, I'm trying my best to cut all the way below the emotion, below the behavior, below the emotion, below the story you're telling yourself to the original incident of your trauma. Um, that's the goal. And to freaking do the work and be like, wow, that's why I'm doing everything I'm doing, or that's why I respond and react to everything whether it's anger or
Yeah, negative.
depression, everything mental health, it comes from a traumatic experience. And we're really good in America to just medicate everything. We're really proud to just be like, hey, just take this pill. This will fix you. This will fix you. We're going to define you. But yeah, it's a much longer road.
So, yeah, 100%. I'm like with you all the way. That's a big topic. It's good
Yeah.
because it's real. The question for you though is like, how have you seen, maybe speaking from personal experience for yourself, people turn their pain into purpose? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess from my personal experience that through all of my 20s, I worked with high school kids, because in high school, I didn't have a mentor. I was really alone. I was really insecure. I was really like quiet and timid. I never was encouraged or given like compliments, in the sense. And so,
Pretty surprising.
yeah, right.
You're
So
not that kid.
yeah, it was really tough. And so my 20s, I was like, man, I'm going to make sure I work with as many high school kids as possible and just like affirm them and compliment them and love on them and support them and have fun with them. Like, don't strip them away from their youth. Right now, we have to grow up so fast. We're just like 13, 14, 15, and our parents are like, come on, grow up, get a job, this isn't this. And we forget to have fun and be playful, and we forget to be young. And so that's what I did in my 20s. I turned all that pain of just like being bullied in high school and being alone. And then I turned 30 and I was like, okay, my 20s were incredible. But I still actually didn't have friends, like real friends, till I was like 27. And I didn't start my first project until I was like 27, 28, like my big project. And so I was like, I'm going to make sure I work with as many 20-year-olds as possible. And I help them find mentorship, community, and a curriculum that understands their emotions and their heart and stuff like that. And so yeah, it's like what the whole mission is everything that has hurt you, or has stifled your steps, or dimmed your light. You're just like, I want to make sure no one has to feel that again, or try my best to like help people not feel that.
Yeah, 100%. Oh man. Was the first project that you did, was the
Traveling Good.
The Traveling Good? Can you
Yeah.
talk about that real fast, just a little bit?
Yeah, I just had this dream one day. It was a couple years before I even started it, but I was like, man, it'd be so cool, because I always felt really privileged, the fact that I would throw events in either Denver or LA where I was living, and people would be like, man, I wish I lived in LA and had friends like you, and I wish I traveled the world and helped developing countries. And I was like, well, you have amazing people in your community, you probably just haven't met them yet. And I was like, also, there's nonprofits in your community that are more important than traveling the world and helping people. And so I was like, it'd be so cool to go on a road trip and just throw events in cities and throw parties where people come volunteer and they learn about nonprofits in their community. So I did that. I got an RV, and me and 7 of my friends traveled to 25 cities and threw parties, and we raised money for charities, and we got people involved in their local nonprofits and communities of volunteering. So yeah, I did that, and it was called the Traveling Good, and it was really fun. It was a dance party. It was good.
I remember watching it online. I don't think I didn't make it to any of them because I was never in one of the cities, but I love that kind of thing personally, because that kind of thing feels like why don't dancers sometimes just get up and like go give what they've got, you know what I mean? And create connection. I think a lot of times we're waiting for gigs. We're waiting for people to tell us what to do, what the right thing is, da, da, da. So the energy that I found in you, but like the yes theory guys, the whole seek discomfort idea, I'm just like, all of that, I just want like dancers to get a hold of and eat from that table, because seeking discomfort, going after your fears, going after things that scare you is something that we don't teach ourselves. We're taught in our culture to, you're taught to be like ferocious in like the industry and like, rawr, you know what I mean? But in the art kind of sort of academic world of dance, it's very much like be perfect and be right and don't mess up and don't, it's very like containing and limiting. But the reality is like dancers are some of the most like adaptable, like should be the most alive human beings on planet Earth, because we literally adapt to space. But I find that we're so small. We make ourselves really small mentally because we're so worried about what the approval or the rejection is going to be. So I love hearing about that kind of work and just going like, I hope that's sparking some ideas for
Totally.
who are listening, because you can actually use stuff like that. It's as simple as, I think, BC, what I've seen on your life, where I'm like, you just make it simple. You're like, let's not overcomplicate this. Let's just go do the thing that we want to do and ask for help on the way and see what happens.
Yeah. So good.
And then you're like, oh, look what we just did. That was great. Thank you everyone for helping out. And dancers, we can be that resourceful. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to be so complicated. So that to finish, I want to hear about just in general, like with you and the mentorship mastermind, I'd love to actually just hear about what you guys are going after specifically, and how, kind of how you've like built out that, what are the goals, and like what's sort of the journey of mentorship mastermind. Yeah.
I was sitting in like Kenya on my 30th birthday, and like I said, I was just kind of journaling and reflecting on my 20s. Like every goal and dream I had came true, and I was like, wow, what an incredible decade this has been. And then yeah, I was like, what now? I was like, and then just kind of came to me. I feel like God put on my heart was just like, make sure you help as many 20-year-olds in their journeys and their stories from your failure. Because I failed at like the Traveling Good, I failed at 5 different things before I created the Traveling Good. But it was lonely. Yeah, it was very lonely. It was a very long journey, and just letting young people know. Yeah, so I built this program. It's called the Mentorship Mastermind. It's really unique. I couldn't really find anything like it, but it's this online program, 8 weeks. Delve into the first 4 weeks is a lot of internal stuff I talked about, from limiting beliefs to trauma work to pain, to insecurities to fears. So the first 4 weeks is kind of delving into that, and you go alongside with 50 people from all around the world, and all different ages and beliefs and backgrounds. And then the last 4 weeks of the program is an external goals of what you're trying to create or cultivate, and for anything from personal goals to purposeful goals. Yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's a really unique space that I'm just navigating, and just, I don't know, scratching the surface of like community and doing things more intimately. Online stuff is great. Having, thousands of followers is all cool and stuff, but it's not, like you said, it's a different style. Like, we have to really open our eyes to intentions, our intentional community of people who really support you and believe in you. So yeah, it's been a journey. It's been great.
Is the goal to help, not necessarily, obviously you can't force anybody, but to help empower these people who have just gotten to do a whole lot of work on themselves, love themselves, be a part of an authentic community that you're cultivating, to help them go find people that are looking for mentors and be able to be a safe place for them and to empower them? Is that sort of the goal?
Totally. The goal is for them to, fall in love with themselves and their stories, and then help them change the world and make a difference. Like, that's like the 2 takeaways of like, hey, we're going to help you heal and find rest in who you are. And then we're going to help you find purpose in who you are. And we're going to walk through this with you after the program's over, of course, and just navigate like your story. And so, yeah, it's cultivating a community of safe place for people to ask the right questions, and to be loved on and encouraged, and know that this success is at the beginning of your journey. Success isn't at the end. Success is when you're all in alignment and you're like, okay, I'm already successful. Everything else after this is icing on the cake. And when you're in love with yourself and you know your compass and where you're going, then you're already won. And everything else is just going to be fun, And I think that's what I love about the dancer community, is they're so good at having fun and expressing themselves and not taking life too serious. Hopefully, I know it's competitive too, but also like,
I think the freestyle community, basically, like when I interact with like freestylers, yes, cypher circles and stuff like that. But the community that I come from and the ballet community, we take ourselves way too seriously. Like, and that's what this is about, is going like, BC, someone like you and a bunch of people that I've interviewed, is like knowing who you are. And it really is like, and that's a journey. Like you said, it's a marathon. It's not a like, oh, if I just like journal about it one day, I'll totally know the whole thing, right? We are really huge beings. We're so complex and beautiful, and we have so much to learn about ourselves. But in that, doing things afraid and stepping out and taking risks, I think is huge. I think it's just huge. And I think, thank you so much for just sharing some of your stories about how you've done that. And I think the last note I'd love to hear you just real fast, like speak on, is just what your ideas or your beliefs around about failure, and taking the next 2 months, and looking at the possibility, because this whole summit is stirring up probably a lot of ideas for people, but then there's always that little voice of like rejection or a failure, or and what would you say in the face of that?
Yeah, failure, it is biologically, and culturally implemented us to be afraid that what are we really afraid of, is not belonging, or being made fun of, or not being enough, or looking embarrassed.
Mm-hmm.
But failure is a really faithful friend of just like helping you get like, if you knew you had to fail 99 times to get to your 100th time to succeed, if someone's like, hey, you're gonna, you would try to fail quickly and often, right? And so if that was like the formula we were given, and was like, hey, I'm God or whatever, this book or something like that's like, hey, I'm gonna let you succeed, but I'm gonna have to have you fail 99 times. We would be failing quick and rapidly, and like every day we would be trying our best. So yeah, I think just really trying to know that on the other side of that spectrum of those 10 or 15 or 20 times you're going to fail, there's going to be such fruit and beauty, and you're going to appreciate it so much more. And yeah, I don't know. I think failure is
So great.
it's celebrated. Like, so one
Yeah,
program that I do with high school kids is one of my friends comes in and teaches everyone how to juggle. And he brings he teaches literally 150 high schoolers how to juggle in within a span of like a couple, 30 minutes or an hour.
yeah,
But before that, he teaches them, he brings one person up and he's like, all right, try to juggle. And the kid drops the balls obviously and fails. And he's like, and some people laugh, and then he encourages all 100 high school students, hey, when he drops the ball, everyone go mad crazy, like freak out, celebrate him, and go crazy. So he would like try to juggle again, and he would drop it, and everyone would just go crazy and cheer.
yeah.
And then he would try again, and then he would slowly teach him how to do it and stuff like that. But it was so like everyone was cheering more about his failure than when of course he caught all 3 balls and caught it, everyone was even more stoked. But it was reprogramming the design of like, man, if someone drops a ball trying to juggle, like celebrate the hell out of them and just go crazy. So it's a funny experiment and program, but I love that definition of like just celebrating like hell after someone, fails or drops the ball.
Because they tried.
Yeah, exactly.
They picked up the balls. They did it. So,
yeah.
BC, thank you so much. Your time, your words, so precious. So helpful. You guys, I'm going to send you to his podcast. I would highly recommend checking out what he does, if even the mentorship mastermind interests you. Getting out there, failing hard, doing it afraid, and turning our pain into purpose. I mean, there's so much, you guys. Hope you enjoyed this interview. Let us know, tag us, and check him out. BC, you have an amazing day. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Whitney. Appreciate you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.